Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Confabulation meeting today. Aisha, you can go ahead and take over.
Okay, everyone, thank you for coming and seeing us today for another episode of Confabulation. So today, Victoria will be hosting, and we are all going to answer some questions, and we're going to get into it about New Year's. So, how you feeling, Victoria? Let's get into it.
Feeling good, Aisha. How are you feeling this morning?
Feeling real good, real blessed to be here.
And joining us here today, we also have Jalen on the podcast, as well as our special guest, Dr. Rees Wilson, who will be touching more on the topic of preparing for the new year and what that looks like. And if you can, Dr. Reese, please give us a brief description of what you do and tell us more about yourself.
Yo, what's up, everybody? You guys hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you so much, our sister's house, for having me in the space. It's an honor. Thank you, Vic, for giving me a seat at the table. I'm Dr. Reese. I am a purpose and confidence scientist who serves as a confidence coach. So what that means is I just help people realize what it looks like to understand that they have a purpose, live that joint out with confidence, so that way they can reach their potential. And so for different people, it may look like leadership development. It may look like actual confidence coaching. It may look like understanding their emotional confidence, their emotional and financial confidence. I just help people be their best selves, and I love being able to do that. And today I'm really excited to share the space with you all. So thank you for having me. Sorry, I'm the CEO and founder of UWish. I always forget to say that. So, and UWish stands for selfish. You drop the self and add in you. And the ISH stands for intentionally seeking healing, so you can internally secure your health. And if you're going to live out your purpose with confidence, you got to be healthy to do it. So that's the focus for us over here at UWish. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again. Thank you for being here. We are glad to have you. So, for the first part of our meeting here today, I just wanted to ask a few questions. For the first one being, how do you guys prepare for the new year? Do you have anything in particular that you partake in? And yeah, so Aisha, I'll have you go first on the first question. The first question.
Okay. So for the first question, I think we have, how do you prepare for the new year? So for me, I'll personally say like I do multiple things, whether that means like going to church sometimes, just spending time with family. I do multiple different things, and I do a lot of like self-reflection towards the end of the year. So just to kind of cleanse and myself before we even step into 2025 or the new year, whatever year. So that's just something kind of small that I do. But it looks different. It's different depending on my mood and how I'm feeling. I kind of do something different to prepare for the new year. So it's not just one set tradition, but that's just a couple things that I do.
Do you want to pass it off to anyone in particular at all?
Yeah, I can. I'll pass it off to Jalen.
I'm I'm pretty sporadic when it comes to New Year's. I think like last year I spent the night in Seattle. The year before that I spent the night in. The year before that I think I spent the night in as well. So I mean, I don't have any like real traditions as far as New Year's or anything like that. But I mean, in the past I remember my grandma would make me eat black eyed peas. That's the only thing I can really remember tradition wise.
Whoa.
But
It's
yeah,
different.
but I'll pass it on to Tahira.
Yes. I first bring it in. We're talking about what we do any New Year's tradition. Okay, so it typically depends on the state I'm in, right? But typically, traditionally, I bring it in at church, and then I will figure out a way how I'm going to eat some dessert or eat some good food after, and whose house I'm going to, and then where are we going to watch some fireworks. So essentially, I keep it pretty simple. It's pretty consistent every year, but I do love the fireworks shows and stuff like that.
Interesting. For myself in particular, typically try and go to church every year just to just to start it off. But I remember being younger, we would like bang pans and like make all this noise just, to really bring in the new year with some good spirits and just be excited about what's to come. Dr. Reese, do you have any particular ways you prepare for the new year?
Preparing for the new year kind of looks different. It depends on my focus. A lot of times, kind of like Jalen said, my lady will make black eyed peas. And so, Vic, the purpose of that is it comes from black culture. It's kind of like bringing in having some good luck. I never had it growing up. I didn't have it until I got into my recent relationship. So I guess it's all skin folk and kinfolk when it comes to that deal. But so we'll have some black eyed peas. We've had some parties over here the last couple years. We'll do like a not necessarily a vision board, but we will do some vision setting, some things that I call vision to fruition. This year, we're going to do an estate planning party. So just really making sure that folks are setting not just intentions, but actual like execution plans. And then also, turning up and having a good time and celebrating.
I love that. I look forward to an invite if I'm invited. Anywho, so for the next question here that I have, for the goals that you guys make, if you ever have any, how do you typically attain and maintain the goals that you set? How do you hold yourself accountable and just make sure that those visions that you have actually come to life? Tahir, I'll have you go first on this one.
Thanks, Victoria. No, I'm kidding. All right, so thank you. Yeah, so how do you typically I've talked to my colleagues about this before. So here's the situation. All right, I go into the year trying my hardest to stick to a resolution. But I have found as you get older, you start to look back over your life and say, okay, that's not going to work this year. So I really try to make it. I switch over to identity, right? And so if I'm putting in a practice that I need to change, I try to become the person or make it a part of my lifestyle, right? Or I try to go in a little bit more serious as far as meditating on that specific, subject throughout the year. So I try to make it a yearly thing rather than a month or, just maybe something temporary. I try to prolong it and see if it can stretch and, some actually, and most recently, it has worked a little bit, but, actually this next coming year, I'm gonna see if I can even stretch it a little bit longer. So yeah, that's my answer, Victoria.
Jalen?
Um, I'm not too big on like the whole New Year's resolution thing. I've only like set my mind to a goal and accomplished it once as far as New Year's resolutions, and it was when I was in high school. I My goal was to not drink soda for the year. And it was kind of came out of the blue. I didn't even really know I wanted to do it. I think until like New Year's Eve the previous year, and I made it the whole year. I didn't drink any soda for a whole year, which was pretty pretty fascinating for like a 16, 17-year-old kid to not drink soda for that whole year, but I did it. But besides that, I don't really plan anything as far as New Year's. I just mostly, look at it as a fresh start. Um, you know, reflect on what I did in the previous year, look forward to what I want to do in this upcoming year. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I look at the whole resolution thing. But I can pass it to Miss Aisha.
Okay. Goodness, this is a hard question. Repeat the question for me, Victoria, one more time, so I can really soak it in.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
All right. So the question was, how do you typically maintain, and well, how do you typically attain and maintain the goals that you set for yourself for the new year?
So I'm actually going to piggyback just a little bit off of what like Tahira was saying. Like when you get older, a lot of things kind of just change for you. And I think like for me, it's more so about um, not so much changing myself like into a whole new me. Cause I kind of talked about this a little bit with you, Victoria, before. Like it's like new year, but new perspective. right? Not so much like I'm just changing who I am or things about like myself. So I try to do a lot of self-reflecting, take the good with the good. And if it's something that's really good or something that maybe I do need to fix within like some things, then I take that. But if it's something that I feel like wasn't that beneficial to me within the that happened within this year, then I kind of dump it and I don't take it into next year. So just a lot of self-reflecting too. Like I'm really big on giving yourself some gifts and giving yourself some takeaways for your own self. And I think that's the best way for me to be able to like attain like my goals going into like, the new year. Sometimes I'm not gonna lie, like I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna do so well. And then I fall off and then I get upset at myself for like, falling off of my goals and things like that. But um I just try to keep it real. Don't even set unrealistic expectations for yourself. It's okay to just do you. Just do you. And if you mess up along the way, give yourself some grace for that, because you shouldn't be trying to maybe change who you are. Just upgrade a little bit. If that makes sense? I don't know if I'm making sense on that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I would really agree with everything that you just said. Again, me and you have had this conversation a couple of times leading up to this, this podcast. So I'll let that be my piece. Dr. Reese, anything you have to say about that?
I think I do, but I will save some of that for the next piece. So I'm gonna
Okay.
pass it back to you, Vic, so that way I can kind of tie that together.
Okay, we're actually gonna go into your piece now, and just keep things rolling for now. So the floor is all yours. Look forward to hearing what you have to say, the knowledge that you have to spill, and the wisdom that you have to share out, not only to us but the viewers that are going to be our listeners. So it's all yours.
Love it. Thank you. So, what I'm hearing, right, the topic of this conversation is preparing for the new year. And I know that when we're kids growing up, and even it comes sometimes from a toxic, and I say toxic kind of lightly in this, but like new year, new me, like I'm about to level up, I'm about to get my revenge, I'm about to be somebody new. And the thing about that is it's cool in the beginning and it has a whole lot of motivation and energy behind it. And then it usually dips off, right? And this is where New Year's resolutions come into play, and a lot of folks, they get really excited come January 1st. And it's crazy the statistics when you find that a lot of people never are achieving them by February and March. And so I like to think of every single day I have the opportunity to transform who I am, not becoming a brand new person. Like I'm not looking to be another person every single day, but I also want to be the next best version of me every day. And that doesn't mean it has to be 100% 360, but it could also just be a 1%. And so in my line of work, when it comes from whether the athletic background or just helping people grow, oftentimes people think getting better means you have to give 100%, you got to grow 100%, like it's all that. But sometimes 1% is better than no percent, whether I'm talking about from the stock market and some savings, or I'm talking about actually growing a new skill, or just growing my ability to get better at not being petty, right? Like maybe this year I just really want to focus on being a little less petty. And that's something for me personally, I will say, is the other day I was like, ooh, okay, petty growth, right? And so when it comes to new year, new me, I think the first place to start is saying, where do I just want to grow? Where do I want to be better? It's not necessarily I have to clap back and have this revenge and set all these big audacious goals and really get excited at the top of the end of the year, the top of the year. So by time March comes, I'm like, man, I forgot I was even focused on that. So let's take it a step backwards and say, what are some areas in my life that I feel like I can be better in, that's going to make me a better version of myself, that's going to increase my performance, that ultimately increases my ability to live out my purpose, right? And then also reach my potential, that's going to have a big impact on the people that I do life with. So that's the first piece to it. So I also am a big proponent of not putting a lot of energy on the first of the year, because my birthday is in August. And I think it's cool to celebrate the calendar year, but I like to put more onus on my actual birth year, right? And my birthday. So I've started to see the calendar year a little bit different. And then as an entrepreneur, I also see it different, to where those dates have a little bit more excitement in personal attachment to me than January 1st. So when I think about it in that way, I really am very intentional with saying the calendar year. Yes, I understand that there's 365 for everybody, but if we can look at the calendar year as just maybe a longer measuring stick of how do I now break this down into 4 quarters. So again, I will start sometimes on my actual birthday. And then for those folks who are like, no, I like using the calendar year. So we'll use it this way. So in 365, we've got 4 quarters. And then again, from the basketball world, this is easy for me to think about it this way as well. But if I can take this whole entire year and I can break it down into 4 quarters, I can set one specific mission and focus on whether, like Jalen said, not drinking soda the whole way through. If that's our mission, awesome, right? We'll take that. Or it could be, I want to focus on not having that much of an attitude. I want to focus on being slower to speak and quick to listen. I want to focus on growing this new skill in my craft, right? Whatever your focus may be is how can I now take the entire year, break it down into 4 quarters, and then break that down into each of the months, and then break that down into the weeks and then to the day. So now what we're doing is we're getting very specific with our intentions, because a lot of people think, and we say this all the time, oh man, life's too short to, but sometimes we don't think about how often we say life is too long. So think about, you come home from a day, you're like, oh man, I had a long day. Now, if your day was long, how can we say life is too short if you had a long day? Right? So, and I say that and I pause there just to give us the time to think about how we think about what we think about in terms of time. A lot of times we try to set so much expectation. I'm getting all this done, and we overestimate what we can achieve, right, in a year, and underestimate what we can achieve in 3 months. And so when I say, how do we just get 1% better? How do we just grow just a little bit every single day? If you do the math on that and you're really intentional with your focus, intentional with your action, intentional with what it is that you're doing, you'll find that you grew exponentially more when you decrease the amount of things that you're focused on versus trying to say, okay, look at all these things I'm going to achieve. And then it became too much for you and you couldn't handle it. So here's 4 things. I have 4 C's that I think that are super, super important for us as just every single person. That when you're going not necessarily into a brand new year, but sometimes you just may need a fresh start. Your fresh start may be on your birthday. Your fresh start may be after a grieving season. Your fresh start may be January 1st. And I think it's important for you to identify when you're ready to tap into a fresh start, not necessarily say January 1st, that's it. Because December 31st is also, it's not, hopefully not over. And I don't know about y'all, but I've had to remind myself recently, like, man, that's not the end of it. Like, that's not the deadline. So if I don't get something done by December 31st, it's okay for me to get it done on January 1st or maybe January 4th. And so to take off the societal expectations of this end of the year, finish strong. I've stopped saying it. Finish the year however you feel like you need to finish it. Strong, soft, weak, restorative. Take off the societal expectations and you do what you need to do. So that way in the next day, just putting respect on the next day. Not necessarily, okay, we're in a brand new year. Now it's got to rev up and then you lose all your energy. So hopefully that makes sense. But this is the biggest thing that allows me to stay excited, engaged, encouraged, even in the midst of grief, even in the midst of feeling like I got this, even in the midst of feeling like I don't know what to do and how to do. It's these 4 C's right here that I believe is a holistic approach to being able to, if you want to set resolutions, you want to set focus and vision, and like I say, bring your vision to fruition, locking in on these 4 C's is going to be the thing to do that. So the thought process is never lose sight of the vision. Never lose sight. If I can enable myself to never lose sight of the vision that I have for me from January 1st to December 31st, because a lot of times we'll get to November and be like, oh, snap, I forgot that this was important. So this is why at the very beginning, whenever your beginning is, whether it's, again, the end of the year, beginning of the calendar year, whatever it is, get clarity. That's our first C. Get clarity. What do I even want to focus on? And why is this even important to me? So I know Jalen at 17, you're like, oh man, probably everybody's drinking soda. Let me see if I can not drink soda, right? I get it. 17-year-olds are probably like, it's a cool challenge. But then it became something that you became competitive with and you had some clarity with it. And then now as a grown man, you're able to look at things a little bit different. But I had clarity. And that's a lot of times what a lot of people don't understand is, I'm doing this, but why am I doing this? So if you take the time to say, these 3 things matter to me, not a list of 10, not a list of achieving 100 things, but these 3 things really matter to me because they impact my purpose, they impact my craft, they impact my ability to be impact my ability for sustainability throughout this year, they impact my holistic wellness, like all those different things. And those are questions you have to ask yourself. And so sit down and get clear whenever you have space. So create the space to figure out, what is the vision I have for my life? Because if you don't have a vision for your life, then you don't have hope. And if you don't have hope, then you feel helpless. And when you feel helpless, then it's a wrap. And so this is the number one thing that everybody needs to figure out is, how do I create clarity over the vision that I have for my life? Because that's going to give me the energy to keep moving forward, right? So if we take that same thought process of the vision I have to grow this entire year, I'm going to break it all the way down to one day at a time. Not the whole year, just one day with inside this quarter. The next thing is consistency. So we got clarity and then consistency. And consistency doesn't necessarily mean every single day. Sometimes it may mean twice a week. That's consistent, but you have to be the one to decide that for you. You can't let somebody else's standards and what society forces you into. I know working out is usually a big one. Okay, I'm going to go from working out no times to 5 times a week. You're going to fall off. So can you set a standard that you have peace with that allows you to be consistent with? I'm going to work out twice a week for 4 weeks, and then I'll adjust. If I can do more, cool, I can do more. But I'm going to set the standard at a place that allows me to obtain it. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is sometimes they set the standard so high they can't even obtain it, and it's so far. And what we naturally do as humans is we just tap out. We just give up. So if you can set your bar close enough for you to get it, but far enough to where it draws effort, that's that 1% better right there that tricks our mind into thinking, I can do this, I did it, now let me raise the bar a little bit higher. So you start low, lower your standard to the point that you can be consistent, and then you get some energy. I could do this. That consistency cultivates energy and reminds you, I can do hard things. I can do this said thing. And I've proven to myself that I can do it. So now let's see how much more I can do it. So if you can allow yourself not to be embarrassed by saying, I go to the gym once a week. I eat 1 good meal. I don't drink soda 1 day a week. I do this. I read a book for this. And you can allow yourself not to compare yours to somebody else's, because they're in a completely different journey. So if you can allow yourself to develop the humility to navigate the embarrassment that may come with your smaller numbers, what it's about is finishing and completing and getting to the next spot, not necessarily comparing to somebody else's. Y'all catching what I'm throwing at you? Okay. So once we have that consistency, the thought process is to create a process you trust. Create a process that you trust, because when you can create a process that you trust, you can therefore trust your process. And I'm being very intentional with you in because your body, your mind, your heart, your schedule, your time, your energy, your everything is completely different from everybody else's. We do not all have the same 24 hours in a day. Yes, there's 365 days in the calendar year. Yes, there are 7 days in a week. Yes, there are 24 hours in a day, but they are not all the same for everybody. And society would like you to trick you into thinking we have the same 24 hours. No, we don't. Because Victoria don't got no kid or no spouse. So our hours are not the same. So the single mom or the single dad or the single parent that has 4 kids, we do not have the same hours. To the person that may have higher socioeconomic status, who can pay people to do certain things for them, that may be laundry, that may be cleaning, that may be picking up kids, that may be watching kids, they can pay to have more time in the day. And so it's important for you to understand not to compare your schedule and your time and, again, your consistency and your process to other people, because we don't have the same 24 hours. So you need to be, here's another unintentional C, you need to be content. Because when you're content, this decreases your stress. So when I can be content in what I'm doing and how I'm doing, and I know that there's ways that I want to increase what I'm doing, If I'm content, it decreases the stress, which prevents me from getting caught up into a dopamine loop, which can lead me down a road to depression. Like, it's that serious, right? So taking a step back and saying, okay, how do I look at my personal life, create a process that I trust that allows me to grow on a daily basis in the direction that I want to go? That's authentic to me. But it started with the intentionality that came from the clarity that we got from jump. So we got clarity, then we got consistency. The next one is then you got to do check-ins. You have to check in. You got to check in with you. If you don't check in with you, when other people check in with you, you're going to give them a surface-based answer. How you doing? Good. Are you? How you? I'm fine. I'm well. And then you just get into just the mundane kind of answers. But if you have the ability to really check in with you and what you've got going on and how you want to achieve, and you're real, not with everybody, but with those who really care, with those who really matter to you. So when you can check in with you and say, I set this intention at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, how am I doing on it? Because life be lifing. Am I right? Life be lifing. And if anything, life is going to start lifing that much more over these next few years. For a whole lot of people, for a whole lot of reasons. And for folks like us who are in service, life will always be lifing because we serve those who life is always lifing for. So if I'm forever in service of folks whose life is always lifing, I'm a trauma responder and I'm there to be the person that they pour into, then life is always lifing for me. So not only do I need to check in on me from the intentions of the areas that I wanted to grow in, I just got to check in on me and my heart. Because empathy fatigue is real. Compassion fatigue is real. Decision fatigue is real. All like physical fatigue is real. All like hope fatigue. All these things are really real, especially because we love what we do. So of course I'm going to show up. Of course I'm going to be there. Of course I'm going to do all these different things. So I have to make sure that I'm checking in with me on a consistent basis. That goes back to our second C, a consistent basis. So when I have the ability to say, I am intentional with checking in with me every single morning at 5 a.m. Every single day at this time, I check in with me. And so this is where what we call is your you-ish time. In my words, for me, it's my Reese-ish time. For Jalen, it would be Jalen's Jalen-ish time or Vic's Vic-ish time. And that ish is where I'm intentionally seeking healing so I can internally secure my health. Because if you are not healthy, you can't be wealthy. It's just not going to work. And you all are not getting what's inside my cup right now. You're getting my overflow. You're getting everything that's pouring like out of it, because my cup is never empty. And if it is, I recognize that because I'm checking in and then I'm out. It's a pause. So when you're intentional with saying, here's the ways that I want to pour in to me from a holistic basis, that's mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, relationally, all of me. These are the ways that I'm checking in with me on a consistent basis to know. And I could even show up and say, man, I don't got it today, but I'm here and I want to be here with y'all. So I just need a little bit of grace. And that's okay. Because when you don't try to be a perfect role model and you can model what it looks like to show up for folks, even when you're like, man, I'm going through it, because you're going to. Because not only does life for the folks that you serve, life's for you. So when we look at this grand year and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I want to do all these amazing things. And then boom, life hits. And then we have to go into sometimes survival mode. And our brain is just saying, I can only do what I can do to survive. What we need to do is go back to, okay, what's the bare minimum of how I show up for me? Maybe it's not spending an hour in the gym. Maybe I just got 10 minutes. Maybe my research time isn't the full 2 to 3 hours and it's 20 minutes. So maybe it's not the whole 100% of it, but I at least can show up to make sure I have enough to give me what I need so that way folks can still get a little bit of what it is. Because I don't want to not serve. I don't want to not show up. I don't want to not grow and get better. But if I'm not giving me what I need, I can't be what I need, what other people need me to be. So that's the check-ins. And that could look different for everybody. Some of my check-ins look like doing a retreat. So I might take a day retreat I might take myself on a date. I might take a 3-day at the end of every quarter, 2 to 3 days, personal retreat, check in. How you doing? How you feeling? What's the visions that we set? Do we need to recalibrate? Because the person that I am today is not the same person I was on January 1st, 2024. Life happens. And when you grow, you outgrow. I grew into something different, so I outgrew some other stuff, and things that no longer mattered to me, I can't hold. Well, I said I was going to, but they don't matter to me anymore. They're no longer a priority. And so giving yourself the permission to say, when I'm intentional about growing, it's okay for me to outgrow the thoughts that I had and ideas and the visions that I may have had at the beginning of. Are we good?
Okay, we're good.
Okay, man, sorry about that. And so being able to check in with yourself to make sure that you are still in alignment and moving in the direction that you want to move and need to move. And the very last one is celebrations. You got to celebrate. So we got consistency, we got clarity, consistency, check-ins, and celebration. You have to celebrate you. Like, you have to be able to take out the time to be like, man, I did that. Look at how far I've grown. Look at how far I've gone. Or sometimes you have to celebrate just to give yourself a reminder, because as humans, our brain literally thrives off of reward. If you don't give us reward, we're going to feel like, what's the point? We're not going to want to continue on. We see this from kids all the way up to adults, because not a lot of people is going to work without getting that pay. Right? Yes, we love to serve. Yes, we love to do what we got to do. But if the same thing needs to take part when you're setting intentions, when you're setting a vision, you're setting goals or missions, whatever verbiage that you use, you have to then attach a reward to it and say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So in your check-ins, you give yourself that reward. If it comes down to food, you might be like, cool, if I eat clean for 6 days, I get a donut on the 7th. So now you're going to stick that much more harder to that, because you know there's a reward at the end of it. Don't nobody want to work harder without a reward. Nobody works hard to not stay the same. You know what I mean? And so when you have the ability to celebrate you, and this is something for Black and brown
Aisha. We can hear you.
Mute.
Especially for Black and brown women and just people, we don't celebrate enough at all. It's hard for us to celebrate ourselves, whether it be our birthday, whether it be really big events, graduating, all the big or little things. So when you can find a way to say, I'm going to celebrate along the way, you can't celebrate every day. You can't turn up every day, because you have to be able to make sure that you're working hard in the process. And then I'm going to celebrate. And what that does literally to your brain is increases your dopamine, your serotonin, and all these pleasure and happiness hormones that go on through your body, because it allows you to say, oh my gosh, like, I worked really hard and then I celebrated myself. Now I want to continue on. Now I'm going to stay that much more competitive with the process. So to wrap this all up, those are the 4 C's that are going to help you stay focused on the vision. Because when you don't lose sight of the vision, it increases your hope, it increases your confidence, it increases your psychological capital that says, I have the ability to endure difficult situations. I have the ability to show up for myself and for others. And that's something that a lot of folks struggle with. But for those who are warriors, for those who are heroes, for those who are the everyday people that are in folks' lives doing the different thing, remember, life is going to always life, but there should be a celebration at the same time. Would take a pause when you need a pause, take a time out when you need a time out, so that way you can keep your endurance up. Nobody needs to run the marathon without taking a break. And so those are my thoughts. Hopefully that was in alignment. I'd love to answer and some questions, some clarity, and things like that, if you guys had any extra questions. But thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for those gems. I writing my stuff down too. So it's never too late to get a refresher and to just hear that. So I appreciate you. Jalen, Tahira, Aisha, anyone have any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Reese, for this time and allowing us to, sharing some of your gems with us because it's definitely going to stick. I know a lot of us wrote some little notes down, definitely resonated with me. So I appreciate you even taking the time to come and speak with us today and to our viewers as well.
I second that. Thank you so much, Dr. Reese. It was very informative, and I know I'm going to be using some of the information that you dropped on us, and I hope that people listening, they're also going to do the same.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Yes, and I will say I am going to be celebrating my birth year. You done messed me up with that one. So, so people are in trouble for that. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm excited to process some things differently. So yeah, every time I see Dr. Reese, I'm always enlightened to shift in perspective, and I think that's really important. That's what we've been talking about. So a powerful talk today. Very nice.
Thank you. And really quick, I know I'm a big fan of Nipsey Hussle. Him and I have the same birthday, and I know the marathon thought process a lot of people throw out there. And I would like to challenge it and expand it because a lot of us occupy multiple different spaces. And so it's more than just a marathon that we run. It's actually for a lot of us a quadrathlon or a triathlon because again, you have to be able to run your race for yourself, right? There's running, there's swimming, there's hiking, there's boating, there's so many other different events that take place outside of just the running marathon. And so for you, it's more than just being yourself. It's showing up for the people you show up for. It's going to work. It's being the student. It's being the parent. It's being the partner. So because you're occupying so many different roles, this is why it's important for us to take the entire year and break it down into pieces. And again, put some more respect on your actual birthday, put some more respect on just today, right? The day being the day. Put some more respect on not just the calendar year and the pop off and allow the excitement to roll off because not every day is filled with excitement. But if we can keep our vision at the forefront and know that we are running more than just a marathon, we're running a triathlon, that allows you to do what you got to do to build up your endurance, right? Because that's what it takes is endurance and strength to run your specific race. And so again, thank you guys for allowing me to be in the space. I would love to be back at any time, and I appreciate and love what you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Anyone else have anything else to say? All right, we are done. Again, Dr. Reese, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the wisdom, the gems that you just dropped. I hope that, everyone that is listening, that will be, tuning in to listen to this podcast will really have something to take away, or at least not only for them, but, other people that are around them. So I appreciate it. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Be intentional for today. All right.